guys, this is another trailer related video. So in the last video you seen me talk about my old grain trailer here, which I modified with the DVD tray motor. Now I'm going to try a new model, and it's this half pipe trailer, and this one just tips like this and has this plastic piston. And the reason I chose this was because of the location of this this hydraulic ram. Actually, this model is not very good. Well, the model itself is good, but the hydraulic cylinder is pretty crap. It's pretty useless movement. So what I'm going to try and do anyway is replace it with this little gear motor. I'm going to try and get that in there and get it to screw up until it extends the trailer. And these are handy little motors. I think a lot of people who do RC conversions use these. You can get them pretty cheaply on eBay. They're maybe €5 or €6, I guess. And it's a 6-volt motor and has been geared down a lot, so it is quite powerful. And that's what makes it pretty ideal for recreating hydraulic cylinders. A lot of people use these for their excavator models, so you might see that on a lot of excavator models. They've used these little motors with a screw mechanism and some threaded bar and a M3 nut or something will move back and forward, and that will pull a conrod connecting to the arm of the motor. So basically that just screw back and forward there. A pretty simple idea, so I'm going to try and use the same idea on this trailer to lift this trailer bed. This is a half pipe trailer, and this is plastic. The body of this model is, or the frame of this model is die cast, and the actual trailer itself is all plastic. That's all plastic. Whereas the previous model, the frame was plastic and the model was die cast, so it's pretty heavy to lift. So this shouldn't be nearly as hard to lift. So we'll give that a go and see how it works. So before we get started, let's just see what distance we actually need to achieve with our motor. So roughly our starting length is around about that. So that is roughly 2 centimeters, and our final is around about roughly 8 centimeters. So our screw mechanism needs to be able to travel 6 centimeters to lift the trailer to this height. So that shouldn't be too difficult. I'll probably try to add lights to this at some point. There's nice flat surfaces here that we could drill through and maybe add some LEDs. And this is die cast though, so it's maybe a little bit trickier than mounting the LEDs on a plastic model, but it shouldn't be too difficult. It's nice flat surface there, and there's a space in the back here for the wires. Probably put microcontroller and the other electronics in here, so there should be plenty of space. So now I need to get the cylinder out. So I drilled the heads off these 4 studs and pulled this off, and now I can get the cylinder out like that. And I would imagine I just have to pull this out. Okay, so there's the cylinder out, and we now have the space to work with. My plan now is to fit this screw motor in here and have it that it can hinge, and that means that I need to file out this area between these two kind of fixing posts. There's little dips in the die cast here. I'm going to try and make it so that my motor levers on those little dips there. So I now need to file a big square out of here. Okay, so now we have that filed down. You can see we can put the motor straight through it. So the next thing is to make a pivoting point on the motor so that when we put it in there we can fix it in place between these two these little grooves I was talking about. If you can see the grooves, yeah, are here. This little groove here, the silver part, that's where I filed the paint off, so there's no material here. That's where I'm going to put the axle. We'll go in there. Okay, so now I've soldered a little bit of copper, thick copper wire on here to make our little axle. So now that is going to fit in here into those grooves, and our motor will be like that on the ground. Okay. And now that we have our motor fixed from this perspective, we need to cut a hole out of this section to let the motor through. So that's the next thing I'm going to do, cut the hole out of this. Okay, so now we have the hole through here. We can put our motor in, put this down, and now we have a lot of movement here for our motor, because we will need the motor to do something like that as the trailer races. Now, the next thing we need to do is secure this in place because we've drilled off the heads. So what I'm going to do is, if you can see in there, there's a little hole. So I'm going to drill this to a 3mm hole, this to 2.5, or this hole in here to 2.5, and then I'm going to tap the hole in here. So that's going to go down there, and a little screw will come through from this side, tighten it in. That will tighten that in place, and that should secure our motor in place there. So with our motor in place, we find that it is a little bit loose in there. So the copper wire I used is a bit too narrow. So I'm going to put some heat shrink on the wire here. So a couple of layers of heat shrink, and that should just bring it up enough to stop it shaking in the holes there. Okay, so now we have our heat shrink on, and we put it in. We don't have nearly as much vibration and wobble, so that's a lot better. Also, we have finished the screw here, so I'll spin it over. Okay, that's like that. Now we have our motor in position there, nice and solid. The link is nice and solid, and we haven't affected the height of the trailer too much. Have quite a low head on that screw, so that should be pretty good. Now we have to work on the screw mechanism that's going to lift our motor, or lift our trailer. So for that, I have taken one of these little brass spacers. I got this off eBay, so if you're looking for them, you can get them there. I drilled. Let me see. So I drilled this side to 3mm with a 3mm bit, so that it fits down onto the head of the motor. And I only drilled it halfway through, so I still have threads on one side of this and no threads on this side. So this side's going to go onto the motor, and then drilled through here with a 2.5mm bit, and I tapped that hole with an M3 tap. And I'm going to have a little screws in there that tightens onto the flat side of the motor. So the motor output shaft has a 3mm shaft with a flat side on it. So this is going to go on the flat side to hold it in place, so that we'll actually turn the shaft. Then I'm going to put an M3 shaft like this into the screw or the threaded end of the brass coupler. Put another a nut on this side. I don't have lock nuts at the minute, but when I get the lock nuts I'll be putting one on, but you'll see at the minute I'm just going to have a normal nut on, and that'll probably do for the time being. And that is the plan, so we'll get to that and see does that work. Okay, so I've made a little screw mechanism here. I'll just show you how it works. Okay, so the wobbling is, well, hopefully just because it's not really finished yet. This is just kind of a test. So basically I have connected the coupler I was talking about here to the M3 shaft. I had to make this shaft because I didn't have M3 shaft, so all I did was get a 2.8mm round wire nail and tap the round wire nail to the right length, and that meant then that I could leave the thread off the top. I'll just show you what I mean. So I tapped it up to this point, so there's about 2mm here that is not tapped. Okay. Then I got this larger threaded shaft that had a hole in it. It's actually an old broken clutch cable, the thread from an old broken clutch cable, and I drilled from this side down. I drilled that at 3mm, and I left about I think about 4mm on the bottom. So I didn't drill 3mm the entire way through. The hole that was already in the centre was 2.5mm. So this last 4mm down here, I tapped that last 4mm to M3 so that this shaft would thread in here. So we've about 4mm of thread here on the bottom, and the rest of it is a 3mm hole. So M3 for the first 4mm, and then 3mm hole the entire rest of the way up the shaft. That means that this point where we didn't thread the bar here, when this completely threads up here, these threads will meet, or the lack of threads here will meet the 4mm that we left here, and the shaft will be physically stopped. That will cause this outer shaft to spin, and that threads up this this nut that's here. So it was just a way to get the trailer to extend a little bit further without too much more space. So we kind of have twice the distance. The only problem is that this outer shaft is just a bit too small. So I'm going to try and locate another sort of tube that I can cut to this length here, thread outside of it, and hopefully we'll get the trailer much higher. Because I don't think this height is high enough for the trailer. I think we'll have to go a bit further. We're just there's the full tipping height that we have at the minute, and I think another centimetre or two would go a long way to making it look a bit better. So this is going to be the end of, we'll call this the first part of this half pipe trailer build, and hopefully it'll probably take a couple of weeks for me to source the correct dimensions of a tube that I need, and to get them delivered. So I'll do that, and I'll update it in a following video. So if you have any suggestions or you like this video, give it a big thumbs up on the below the YouTube video there, and any questions, go to the forum, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. I think that's all for this video, so thanks very much for watching.